Okay, so based on the sketches in 2D, the sketches that you saw here, and the 3D sketch in the previous video, the very rough model inside Blender, we managed to sort of mash something together like this, which became a very, very rough overpainted version of a half-finished bucket excavators. That's still a hard word for me. That sort of like gave a lot of inspiration to how the finished layout and image should be. And I think I can't attribute to who figured out the idea, Yannick, with them picking up some survivors. I think we just had the initial thought that they were just driving, like the crop was just here. But then we thought, it needs to showcase some sort of story going on. It couldn't just be them driving. It needed to sort of be an action that is happening.
Yeah, one of the big contrasts we talked about was this big hard machine versus these soft people, and then also having this kind of story moment where you're encountering some other survivors, and then are you gonna help them and tag them along, or are you gonna rob them, or what? Like, this should be up to the player to what to do, and then this could be one of these powerful moments where you can kind of showcase this big contrast between these two very fragile people versus this very big hard machine.
I think what you just said, the word there, story moment, I think that's quite good to also, like whenever we make a layout, we try to make it into, as you say, a story moment, like a moment that tells sort of something like a pivotal thing in the game, something that is unique, something that is what you would want to play this game for. And to sort of say this is a game loop in this game, that you pick up survivors and you have to sort of make a decision. What do you do with these survivors? So we wanted to showcase the story moment. And again, like, this is a really brutally overpainted version, but here we I think we figured out a lot of stuff in this paint. Just like we wanted some factory in the background, we wanted some more. I think in the beginning, if we just step all the way back here, I had an idea that it was just this tundra with nothing, and I think I just looked at that. But then we started to figure out, looking a little bit more like at the Metro Exodus, like this layout is actually quite crammed with information and detail. So I think we got to the conclusion that we needed some more stuff, and we figured out that we needed some backdropping also. That it would be a broken, like a train yard with like electrical wiring for trains and train tracks and like these kind of things that compositionally also was pleasing to the image. But this being a final 3D piece, from the previous video we saw this very rough block mesh, and this is my final 3D file that then I rendered out so that I could do the final overpaint. So all the characters, they're based on some very basic skeleton rig mesh I have, combined with a lot of things we borrowed from Sketchfab. So this is a non-commercial project, so I thought it would be okay to borrow some stuff from Sketchfab, and it's also being overpainted. So I can't really contribute to praise the authors of all the things I used here. But again, as it is a non-commercial project, I thought it would be okay to borrow assets around. So a lot of it is homemade, built from texture.com. Textures are just being built and put together. It's a bit heavy, so it goes well. So a lot of the stuff is homemade and built by me. But a lot of the stuff is also photo scans, Mixamo characters, Sketchfab, or borrowed materials and stuff like that. So basically this is the 3D model. This is the level I would go with a 3D model, so that to minimize the amount of painting to be done later, and then also maximizing the story that I can tell with this. So the story here should be this, as you said, Yannick, these two survivors meeting this giant machine crushing its way through, so there's all these things being crushed along the way. and like what do they do when they find these survivors. So it's a mother and a child, but she's armed, so he's coming there with an extended hand as a greeting, but you still have this armed guard with a dog, so it's a bit of tension. So I think that is something we talked about, like this tension in meetings, like what is your choice as a player, what do you choose to go down, which path do you go down. Is there anything more to say about this?
I don't know. I think we can kind of look at that this bucket excavator still looks a lot like the first iteration.
Oh
It
yeah,
still
yeah.
has the basic shape
Mm-hmm.
and some of the elements we talked about in the last video, but there's a lot more details.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's some 3D scanned tracks, and then there's like some mixable characters. There's some actual like tarp, and there's an actual chain card, and there's a crane over there that can kind of lift supplies up. So everything
Yeah.
is there's been added a few things, and then there's just been added a bunch of details.
Yeah, I
Kind
think
of make it
that
more alive.
the structure is still the same, but it's just the amount of detailing has gone through the roof. And also, like, this is killing the computer. This scene became a little bit heavy. So I think at this point, I just sort of stopped with the blender, because I could feel that this was sort of the end of the road for the blender scene, and just ready to dive into Photoshop to do the last painting, photo bashing, and painting over. So I think that will be the last video for the exterior scene. I'll just quickly talk through what I did with the overpaint and where I stopped with the 3D. So unless there's anything more to say about this, I will just jump directly into the paint over. Okay, so see you guys there.